Our story unfolds in the heart of West Africa, a land rich in natural resources, yet grappling with the complexities of development. Meet Ibrahim Traoré, the young and charismatic president of Burkina Faso. Elected on a platform of national rejuvenation, President Traoré inherited a nation striving to balance its immense mineral wealth with the well-being of its people. His background, steeped in community development and a deep understanding of Burkina Faso's socio-economic landscape, fueled his unwavering commitment to equitable growth. He envisioned a future where the country's resources would directly benefit its citizens, fostering sustainable prosperity for generations to come. This vision, however, would soon clash with a formidable force. On the other side of this compelling narrative stands Richard Thornton, the steely-eyed CEO of Global X Mining, a multinational corporation with a global footprint and a history as complex as the mines it operates. Global X, a behemoth in the mining industry, boasts decades of experience extracting valuable minerals across the globe. However, its reputation precedes it, shadowed by allegations of environmental damage and accusations of exploiting vulnerable communities in its relentless pursuit of profit. Thornton, a seasoned player in the global corporate arena, is known for his aggressive business tactics and unwavering dedication to maximizing shareholder returns, regardless of the social or environmental consequences. The stage is set for a dramatic clash of wills. The proposed new mining regulations, championed by President Traoré, aim to significantly increase the revenue Burkina Faso receives from its mineral resources, ensuring a fairer share for the nation. These regulations, however, directly threaten Global X's projected profits, setting the stage for a conflict that would test the resolve of both men and determine the future of Burkina Faso's mining industry. The coming chapters will detail the intense power struggle that ensued, a David and Goliath battle fought not with slings and stones, but with political maneuvering, corporate intimidation, and an unwavering commitment to national sovereignty. This is a story of resilience, a testament to the power of principled leadership in the face of overwhelming corporate pressure, a story that will leave you questioning the true cost of progress. The initial negotiations between President Traoré and Richard Thornton began with a veneer of civility, a carefully orchestrated dance between political ambition and corporate greed. Thornton, representing Global X, arrived in Ouagadougou with an entourage of advisors, their presence a subtle yet potent demonstration of the company's economic might. He presented a carefully crafted argument, emphasizing the significant contributions Global X had made to Burkina Faso's economy and the potential for future investment, subtly hinting at the devastating consequences of unfavorable regulations. He painted a picture of economic hardship should the proposed changes be implemented, a carefully calculated attempt to sway President Traoré. However, President Traoré remained unmoved. He calmly but firmly reiterated his commitment to the new regulations, emphasizing the nation's right to benefit fairly from its own resources. He spoke of the need for transparency and accountability, a stark contrast to Global X's opaque history. This unwavering stance, however, marked the beginning of a shift in Thornton's approach. The initial attempts at persuasion gave way to veiled threats, hints of economic repercussions that extended beyond Burkina Faso's borders. The subtle pressure tactics escalated, revealing a darker side to Thornton's negotiating style. The subtle threats were followed by more overt displays of power. Thornton subtly leveraged Global X's influence on international financial markets, suggesting that unfavorable regulations could trigger a decline in foreign investment, impacting Burkina Faso's overall economic stability. He skillfully played on the nation's vulnerabilities, subtly reminding Traoré of Burkina Faso's dependence on foreign aid and investment. But President Traoré, despite the immense pressure, stood his ground. He understood the risks, but he also understood the greater risk of surrendering his nation's sovereignty for short-term economic gains. The seeds of conflict had been sown, and the ground was fertile for a confrontation of epic proportions. This initial clash was a mere prelude to the intense power struggle that would define the relationship between Burkina Faso and Global X, a battle that would test the limits of political will and corporate influence. The initial subtle threats quickly escalated into a campaign of intimidation targeting not only President Traoré, but also his family. The pressure tactics, previously veiled in diplomatic language, now took on a more sinister tone. Anonymous calls, filled with veiled threats and unsubstantiated accusations, became a regular occurrence. Harassing phone calls to Traoré's family members, late-night visits from unknown individuals, and unsettling incidents near his residence created an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty. These actions were clearly designed to undermine Traoré's authority and weaken his resolve. Global X's influence extended beyond the confines of Burkina Faso. Thornton leveraged his company's extensive network of contacts to spread disinformation about President Traoré, attempting to damage his reputation both domestically and internationally. Negative news articles, anonymously sourced, appeared in prominent international publications, painting a false narrative of corruption and instability. Simultaneously, efforts were made to influence key political figures within Burkina Faso, subtly undermining Traoré's support base and creating divisions within his government. The stakes were raised considerably. These actions were not merely attempts to influence policy. They were calculated moves designed to destabilize the government and force President Traoré into submission. The intensity of the campaign highlighted the lengths to which Global X was willing to go to protect its financial interests, highlighting the inherent conflict between corporate power and national sovereignty. The escalating intimidation, however, only served to solidify President Traoré's resolve. He refused to be intimidated, understanding that surrendering to such tactics would set a dangerous precedent, not only for Burkina Faso, but for other developing nations facing similar pressure from multinational corporations. The conflict had reached a critical juncture, a point of no return where the fate of a nation hung in the balance. The next steps would determine the outcome of this David and Goliath struggle, a battle that would reverberate far beyond the borders of Burkina Faso. Faced with relentless intimidation and a growing sense of unease, President Traoré made a critical decision. He would launch a thorough investigation into Global X's activities within Burkina Faso. The escalating harassment, the carefully orchestrated disinformation campaign, and the persistent feeling of being watched all pointed toward a level of manipulation far beyond typical corporate lobbying. A deep-seated suspicion began to take root, a conviction that Global X was employing unethical, possibly illegal, methods to achieve its aims. The investigation was shrouded in secrecy, conducted with utmost discretion to avoid alerting Global X to the impending scrutiny. A small, hand-picked team of trusted advisors and investigators was assembled, tasked with uncovering any evidence of wrongdoing. Their mandate was clear: leave no stone unturned. The team meticulously examined Global X's financial records, environmental impact reports, and operational permits, searching for any inconsistencies or irregularities. They delved into the company's dealings with local officials, scrutinizing contracts and scrutinizing communications for any signs of bribery or corruption. As the investigation progressed, a growing sense of unease settled over the team. The more they dug, the clearer it became that Global X's operations in Burkina Faso were far from transparent. Rumors of illicit activities, whispers of bribery and corruption, and accounts of environmental negligence began to coalesce into a disturbing picture. The suspense mounted with each passing day, fueled by the discovery of inconsistencies and unanswered questions. The weight of uncovering the truth rested heavily on President Traoré's shoulders, the fate of his nation hanging in the balance. The investigation was not merely a counteroffensive. It was a desperate gamble, a race against time to expose the truth before Global X could further consolidate its power and silence any opposition. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but President Traoré was determined to expose the truth, whatever the cost. The investigation yielded shocking results. Hidden within seemingly innocuous financial records and operational reports, The team uncovered evidence of a sophisticated and extensive surveillance operation conducted by Global X, targeting President Traoré and key members of his government. Encrypted communications, intercepted emails, and detailed logs revealed a network of informants, covert surveillance equipment, and sophisticated data mining techniques. The scale of the operation was staggering, a blatant disregard for national sovereignty and a clear violation of international norms. The evidence painted a chilling picture. Global X had been systematically monitoring President Traoré's communications, tracking his movements, and gathering intelligence on his personal life and political activities. This was not mere corporate espionage. It was a calculated attempt to manipulate and control the political landscape of Burkina Faso. The implications were far-reaching, suggesting a level of corporate overreach that threatened the very foundations of the nation's democracy. The surveillance operation was not an isolated incident. It was a deliberate and calculated strategy designed to ensure Global X's continued dominance over Burkina Faso's mineral resources. The team unearthed irrefutable proof. Contracts with private security firms specializing in surveillance and intelligence gathering, payments made to informants within the government, and detailed reports summarizing their findings and recommendations. The data revealed a pattern of systematic surveillance, extending far beyond simple monitoring. The information gathered was used to undermine Traoré's political standing, influence public opinion, and manipulate key government decisions. The weight of this discovery fell heavily on President Traoré, fueling his determination to confront Thornton and expose Global X's unethical practices. The evidence was overwhelming, irrefutable, and damning, a testament to the lengths to which Global X was prepared to go to maintain its control. The stage was set for a confrontation, a showdown that would determine the fate of Burkina Faso and reshape the dynamics of power between a sovereign nation and a global corporate giant. The confrontation took place in a tense, high-stakes meeting. President Traoré, his face etched with a grim determination, presented Thornton with the irrefutable evidence of Global X's clandestine surveillance operation. He laid out the facts methodically, detailing the extent of the company's intrusion into Burkina Faso's sovereignty and the blatant disregard for international law. The air crackled with unspoken tension, the weight of the accusations hanging heavy in the room. Thornton, initially dismissive, attempted to deflect the accusations with carefully chosen words and legalistic arguments. He denied any knowledge of the surveillance operation, claiming it was the work of rogue employees acting outside the scope of their authority. His arrogance was palpable, his attempts to minimize the gravity of the situation revealing a deep-seated belief in his own invulnerability. However, faced with the overwhelming evidence, his composure began to crack. The carefully constructed facade of corporate respectability crumbled under the weight of Traoré's unwavering resolve. The young president refused to be swayed by Thornton's attempts at manipulation. He spoke with unwavering conviction, his voice resonating with the strength of his convictions and the weight of his responsibility to his nation. He demanded an immediate cessation of all surveillance activities, the withdrawal of all Global X personnel involved in the operation, and full compliance with the newly enacted mining regulations. He made it clear that the future of Global X's operations in Burkina Faso hinged on Thornton's willingness to accept responsibility for his company's actions and commit to ethical business practices. The confrontation marked a dramatic turning point, a pivotal moment where the balance of power shifted decisively in favor of President Traoré and the people of Burkina Faso. Thornton's arrogance and underestimation of Traoré's resolve would ultimately prove to be his undoing. The confrontation marked the beginning of a protracted legal and political battle. Global X, despite its initial setback, employed a range of strategies to challenge the new mining regulations and undermine President Traoré's authority. They launched a sophisticated lobbying campaign, targeting international organizations and influential political figures, attempting to portray Traoré as an unstable and unreliable leader. Simultaneously, they initiated legal challenges in international courts, arguing that the new regulations violated international trade agreements and unfairly targeted Global X. President Traoré, however, was prepared for this counteroffensive. He strategically leveraged Burkina Faso's strong international alliances and the growing global awareness of corporate malfeasance. He secured the support of several African nations and international human rights organizations, highlighting Global X's unethical practices and the company's blatant disregard for Burkina Faso's sovereignty. He expertly utilized international legal channels, presenting compelling evidence of Global X's surveillance operation and their systematic attempts to undermine his government. The legal battles were complex and protracted, involving numerous hearings and appeals. The case became a focal point for discussions about corporate accountability, the rights of developing nations, and the ethical responsibilities of multinational corporations. Traoré's steadfastness and strategic use of international pressure proved crucial in countering Global X's resources and influence. He skillfully navigated the complexities of international law, using the legal framework to expose Global X's actions and protect Burkina Faso's interests. This legal and political warfare tested Traoré's resilience and leadership, demonstrating his commitment to safeguarding his nation's resources and future. The battle was far from over, but Traoré's strategic moves had significantly shifted the balance of power. The escalating conflict attracted significant international attention. News of Global X's unethical practices and the surveillance operations spread rapidly, sparking outrage among human rights organizations and international bodies. Prominent NGOs, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, issued strong statements condemning Global X's actions and calling for accountability. Their reports detailed the company's intimidation tactics, the violation of Burkina Faso's sovereignty, and the systematic undermining of democratic processes. This public condemnation significantly amplified international pressure on Global X. Several governments, particularly those within the African Union, expressed their solidarity with Burkina Faso. Statements of support poured in, condemning Global X's actions and calling for a fair and just resolution to the conflict. The international community's response shifted from cautious observation to active intervention. Diplomatic channels were engaged, with several nations applying pressure on Global X to comply with international norms and respect Burkina Faso's right to regulate its own resources. The weight of international pressure proved to be a decisive factor. Global X, facing mounting criticism and the threat of significant financial penalties and reputational damage, found itself increasingly isolated on the world stage. The international community's united stance sent a clear message. Corporate impunity would no longer be tolerated. The pressure from international organizations, governments, and NGOs forced Global X to reassess its strategy and consider the long-term consequences of its actions. This international response underscored the growing global awareness of corporate malfeasance and the importance of holding powerful corporations accountable for their actions, particularly in developing nations. The tide had turned. The weight of the world was now against Global X. President Traoré's strategic acumen was instrumental in turning the tide against Global X. He understood that this was not merely a domestic conflict, but a battle that played out on the global stage. His response was multifaceted, combining skillful diplomacy with targeted legal actions and a carefully orchestrated public relations campaign. He formed key alliances with other African nations, creating a united front against Global X's exploitative practices. This coalition provided crucial political leverage, amplifying Burkina Faso's voice and strengthening its negotiating position. Simultaneously, Traoré's government meticulously documented Global X's violations, building a strong legal case that highlighted the company's disregard for international law and its exploitation of Burkina Faso's resources. This evidence was strategically leaked to international media outlets, further exposing Global X's actions and building public pressure. Furthermore, President Traoré launched a proactive public relations campaign that effectively countered Global X's narrative. He used international forums and media outlets to highlight Burkina Faso's commitment to sustainable development and responsible resource management. He emphasized the country's right to control its own natural resources and benefit fairly from its mineral wealth, framing the conflict as a fight for economic justice and national sovereignty. This campaign successfully shifted global public opinion, galvanizing support for Burkina Faso's cause and further isolating Global X. Traoré strategic moves weren't merely reactive. They were carefully planned and executed, leveraging both domestic and international resources to achieve a significant victory. His actions demonstrated a deep understanding of the global political landscape and a commitment to securing a better future for his nation. The culmination of President Traoré's strategic efforts marked a turning point in the conflict. A series of key events solidified Burkina Faso's victory. First, a landmark ruling in an international court upheld the legality of Burkina Faso's new mining regulations, rejecting Global X's claims of unfair targeting. This legal victory was a significant blow to Global X, undermining their legal challenges and strengthening Burkina Faso's position. Simultaneously, a shift in public opinion became evident. Global X, facing mounting international condemnation and reputational damage, began to lose support from key investors and stakeholders. This pressure forced the company to reconsider its aggressive tactics and seek a negotiated settlement. The political concessions that followed were significant. Global X agreed to withdraw its legal challenges, comply fully with the new mining regulations, and commit to ethical and transparent business practices in Burkina Faso. The impact of President Traoré's resilience cannot be overstated. His unwavering commitment to his nation's interests, despite facing immense pressure and intimidation, inspired confidence both domestically and internationally. His strategic use of legal channels, diplomatic alliances, and public relations ultimately proved decisive in securing a favorable outcome. This victory was not simply a legal win. It was a testament to the power of resolute leadership in the face of overwhelming corporate might. The successful defense of Burkina Faso's sovereignty served as an inspiration to other developing nations facing similar challenges, highlighting the potential for smaller nations to successfully challenge powerful multinational corporations. It was a David versus Goliath story with a truly inspiring conclusion. The aftermath of the conflict brought significant changes. Global X, facing considerable reputational damage and legal ramifications, committed to a complete overhaul of its operations in Burkina Faso. This included a substantial increase in revenue sharing with the Burkinabe government, ensuring a fair distribution of profits from mining activities. The company also implemented robust ethical guidelines, committing to transparent operations, environmental sustainability, and community engagement initiatives. Independent audits were introduced to monitor compliance, ensuring accountability and transparency. These measures aimed to rebuild trust and ensure that future mining operations adhered to the highest ethical standards. Burkina Faso experienced a significant boost in its mining revenues, directly benefiting its economy and its people. The increased revenue allowed for substantial investments in infrastructure, education, and healthcare, improving the lives of citizens and fostering sustainable development. The government also implemented stricter regulations across the mining sector, ensuring that future contracts prioritized national interests and environmental protection. These reforms established a new framework for responsible resource management, preventing future exploitation by multinational corporations. Richard Thornton, the CEO of Global X, faced significant repercussions for his actions. He was forced to resign from his position amidst mounting public pressure and internal investigations. Further legal action, both civil and criminal, was pursued against him and other senior executives involved in the surveillance operation and intimidation tactics. Thornton's downfall served as a stark warning to other corporations considering similar unethical practices, highlighting the significant personal and professional risks associated with such actions. The consequences faced by Thornton underscored the growing accountability of corporate leaders for their actions on the global stage. The conflict between President Traoré and Richard Thornton exposed a fundamental power imbalance inherent in the relationship between developing nations and multinational corporations. It highlighted the crucial importance of national sovereignty in resource management. Burkina Faso's struggle underscores the vulnerability of developing countries to exploitation when they lack the political and economic power to negotiate fair terms with powerful corporations. The narrative reveals how corporate greed, unchecked by adequate regulation, can undermine a nation's ability to benefit from its own resources. President Traoré's resilience demonstrated the power of determined leadership in the face of overwhelming corporate pressure. His actions served as a powerful example of how a nation can leverage international pressure, legal frameworks, and strategic alliances to challenge corporate dominance. The case showcases the effectiveness of a multifaceted approach combining diplomatic engagement, legal action, and targeted public relations campaigns in shifting the power dynamic. Furthermore, the conflict serves as a stark reminder of the ethical responsibilities of multinational corporations operating in developing countries. Global X's actions expose the devastating consequences of prioritizing profit maximization over ethical considerations. The incident highlights the need for greater transparency, accountability, and adherence to international standards of corporate social responsibility. Ultimately, the victory for Burkina Faso stands as a beacon of hope, demonstrating that even seemingly insurmountable power imbalances can be overcome through strategic leadership, resolute determination, and a commitment to national sovereignty. The Burkina Faso Global X conflict carries profound implications for future corporate governmental relations within the mining industry. It serves as a critical case study, illustrating the urgent need for a paradigm shift in how multinational corporations engage with developing nations. The conflict underscores the importance of transparency in all aspects of mining operations, from contract negotiations to environmental impact assessments. Openness and accountability are no longer optional. They are essential prerequisites for fostering trust and ensuring equitable partnerships. Furthermore, the conflict emphasizes the critical role of robust regulatory frameworks and their effective enforcement. National governments must possess the legal tools and political will to protect their national interests and ensure that mining activities benefit their citizens. International organizations and civil society groups can play a vital role in supporting these efforts by promoting good governance and holding corporations accountable to international standards. This includes the establishment of independent oversight bodies to monitor compliance and address grievances effectively. Respect for national laws and regulations is paramount. Multinational corporations must recognize that their operations are subject to the laws of the host country and must operate within those legal frameworks. Attempts to circumvent or undermine national laws, as seen in Global X's actions, will inevitably lead to conflict and reputational damage. The future of responsible mining lies in fostering collaborative partnerships based on mutual respect, transparency, and a shared commitment to sustainable development. The Burkina Faso experience provides a roadmap for achieving this goal, demonstrating the potential for positive change when national sovereignty and corporate responsibility converge. The lessons learned from this conflict are far-reaching, setting a new precedent for ethical engagement in the global mining sector. The story of President Traoré and Global X resonates far beyond the borders of Burkina Faso. It is a testament to the power of courage, resilience, and the unwavering pursuit of justice. President Traoré's unwavering commitment to his nation's sovereignty, despite immense pressure, serves as an inspiration to leaders in developing countries facing similar challenges. His actions demonstrate that standing up to corporate greed, even when facing overwhelming odds, is not only possible but necessary. This narrative underscores the critical importance of ethical corporate behavior. The actions of Global X expose the devastating consequences of prioritizing profit over people and the environment. The repercussions faced by Richard Thornton serve as a stark warning. Unethical practices will not go unpunished. The international community must demand higher standards of corporate accountability, ensuring that multinational corporations operate with transparency and respect for human rights and environmental regulations. The fight for justice is not solely the responsibility of governments. It requires the collective action of citizens, civil society organizations, and international bodies. We must actively advocate for ethical practices in the mining industry, supporting initiatives that promote sustainable development and equitable resource distribution. By raising our voices and demanding accountability, we can contribute to creating a fairer and more just world where the rights of nations and their people are not sacrificed for corporate gain. Let the story of Burkina Faso inspire us to continue this vital work, ensuring that the lessons learned from this David and Goliath struggle resonate for generations to come. The fight for a more ethical and sustainable future is a collective endeavor, and your voice matters. The David and Goliath struggle between President Traoré and Global X marks a pivotal moment in the history of mining. It signifies a potential turning point, a shift away from exploitative practices towards a more equitable and sustainable future. The lasting impact of this conflict extends far beyond the borders of Burkina Faso, serving as a powerful precedent for other developing nations grappling with similar challenges. The victory secured by President Traoré is not merely a triumph for Burkina Faso. It is a victory for all nations striving to protect their resources and their sovereignty. The story highlights the transformative power of resolute leadership. President Traoré's strategic vision, unwavering determination, and skillful navigation of complex international relations offer a blueprint for other leaders facing corporate pressure. His success demonstrates that even seemingly insurmountable power imbalances can be overcome with a well-defined strategy, strong alliances, and a commitment to ethical principles. The reforms implemented by Global X, albeit born from necessity, represent a significant step towards greater corporate responsibility within the mining industry. This case underscores the potential for positive change when strong leadership meets effective advocacy and international pressure. Looking ahead, the Burkina Faso experience offers a hopeful vision for the future of mining. It suggests a future where corporations operate with transparency and accountability, respecting national laws and prioritizing sustainable practices. It envisions a future where the benefits of mining are fairly distributed, contributing to the economic and social development of the communities where they operate. This narrative is not just a story of conflict and resolution. It is a call to action, an inspiration for a new era of mining, an era characterized by ethical conduct, sustainable practices, and a renewed commitment to protecting national interests and the well-being of communities impacted by mining operations.